Hello, I'm Ed Boltz, Managing Partner at the Law Office of John T. Orcutt, and with me today I have Jeremy Harn. Jeremy, let's start out with you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, Ed, I've been a consumer lawyer for about 3 years. I've filed hundreds of bankruptcies in that time. My passion has always been helping others, even when they uh, think that there's no other way out, no way to turn things around. Because of this passion, I decided to help people find ways to fix their credit reports. Most people don't know what to do. They feel helpless when there's something wrong with their credit report, and so that's something that attracted me to it. So that's part of what I do.
Credit reports are covered under something called the FCRA or FCRA. Can you tell us what that stands for and what that law says?
Right. So FCRA is a federal law which lays out the guidelines regarding credit reporting and credit reporting agencies. It helps to set up the ability for regulating bodies to set guidelines for that, and gives consumers a way to fix their credit reports if there's ever an error.
And why is FCRA important? Do people have that many errors in their credit reports that hurt them?
Well, actually, Ed, according to a study conducted by the Federal Trade Commission, 1 in 5 American consumers has an error on their credit report. And many people simply don't even know they have an error, or they don't know how to notice one, how to find one.
And that probably even goes up for people who've had some financial problems and those sorts of dings on their credit, that they're more likely to have inaccuracies.
Sure. I mean, certainly the more accounts, the more things that are on your credit, the more opportunity for those accounts to have errors. And in addition, maybe some lenders that aren't as sophisticated, maybe more prone to errors, but it really cuts across all levels of credit reporting.
And how can a consumer check their credit report to see if they have errors or inaccuracies?
Well, consumers are entitled to a free copy of their credit report every 12 months. I say every year, every 12 months. The easiest way to do that is to go online to annualcreditreport.com. You can request the free report there. You can also do it by mail if that's better for you, or telephone. The main thing to do, though, Ed, is not just go request your report. You want to request your report, but you actually want to go through it. Don't just throw it in the drawer and say, okay, I got my report, just like Jeremy Harn said. No, you got to go through and look at it. I want you to look, okay, this is my auto loan. This is my mortgage loan. It's got the proper marks on it, because that's how you're really going to know if it's accurate or not. Don't just trust a numerical score, because you may be getting dinged and not even notice it.
And let's say they pull their report and they follow your advice, Jeremy, and they look up and see that there's errors in their credit reports. What should they do next?
So my first advice is always going to be seek the advice of an attorney. If you don't feel comfortable with what's going on, definitely seek the advice of an attorney. Seek out help at that point. Let's say you can't find an attorney or you don't want to go to an attorney. That's okay. There are methods for the consumer to dispute the report on their own. Depending on how you decide to dispute the report, they're going to have to respond to you within 30 to 45 days with what the conclusion of the reinvestigation is. So if you say, okay, here's an error, credit reporting agencies, I've found an error, please fix it. They're going to have to respond to you in 30 to 45 days, tell you what the conclusion of their reinvestigation is, and that's how kind of it works.
But if a consumer can do this on their own, why would they ever want to talk to us or another attorney about getting assistance?
Well, that's a great question, because plain and simple, a lot of times these reinvestigations don't yield the results that are satisfactory to a consumer. Oftentimes, the marks aren't changed. The credit reporting agencies conduct a reinvestigation. They may reach out to the furnisher who has furnished this credit information. Now it's going to be a creditor like Bank of America or somebody like that. And that furnisher is going to check their records and they'll say, yep, that's right. And the credit reporting agency is going to return to you and say, no, we think it's right. Well, then what do? Joe off the street may not know how to proceed from there to get it fixed. So it's really important that dispute is good good and accurate. You want to make sure that you give any supporting documentation you can to those credit reporting agencies so that they know exactly what needs to be fixed, and so that if they get it wrong, you can say, there's no way you made a mistake here. I've given you what you needed. I put it plain and simple for you. And so you don't want them to be able to fall back on that and say...
And that's where an attorney would be able to know how to say it clearly and specifically so that you can avoid having these problems later where
Right.
they say, oh, that's not what you asked us,
Yeah,
or you
and-
didn't send it to the right address, or all the things that can be used as excuses by the credit bureaus and the furnishers.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you want to seek out the advice of an experienced attorney, because they're going to be the ones who have dealt with these credit reporting agencies before and know the kind of things they do or need in order to fix these errors on your report. And hey, look, if you dispute the report and it gets fixed, good for you, but let's face it, even if it gets fixed, your credit score may not go back to where it was, and you may, not be made whole at the end of it. So...
All right, so let's say that the consumer does find that there's an error and they come to us, and we agree that there's an error and we dispute it. What happens next after there's that dispute?
So,
especially if it's not fixed or not fixed fully or correctly.
Right. Well, depending on the error and depending on if the dispute was correct, and let's assume that all of those things are there, the consumer may have the right to sue the credit reporting agencies and the furnisher to make themselves whole, to make them to force these people to fix the problem, but also perhaps to compensate the consumer for emotional damages, things like if you have to get a higher interest rate on a loan as a result of,
or if you're denied for a loan,
or if you're denied for a loan. Imagine going into a dealership and not being able to get a car because of something you didn't do wrong. That's not fun for anybody. And the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals has spoken to what kind of errors they're looking for, and one is whether the error is misleading. And I quote, if a consumer disputes the accuracy of information that the furnisher reports, FCRA requires furnishers to determine whether the information that they previously reported to a credit reporting agency is incomplete or inaccurate. Congress intended furnishers to review reports not only for inaccuracies in the information reported, but also for omissions that render reported information misleading. Reported information misleading. Courts have held that a credit report is not accurate under FCRA if it provides information in such a manner as to create a materially misleading impression. So, as a consumer, you may not know what is a materially misleading impression. That's why I say seek out the help of an attorney. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a question for a jury of your peers to determine. That's not up to the credit bureau. It's not up to me as an attorney. That's a question for a jury, and that's why we have
people your peers who understand these things,
right,
who live the same life as you,
absolutely,
and they know the impact that and the importance credit scores have for
absolutely
people nowadays. So, what sort of results would a consumer expect from a Fair Credit Reporting Act lawsuit, like in terms of damages, in terms of the time frame, how long this takes to get these resolutions, things
right,
like that?
So I'd say, first and foremost, our goal is we want to fix the error on the report. So everything else is secondary to that. You come to an attorney because you want to fix the problem. And so goal number one, fix the report. Beyond that, I want to help make you whole. The goal would be, what kind of harm have you suffered, and what can we do to make that better? And it may be that you're entitled to some compensation. That's going to be completely dependent on the type of error and the type of consequences of that error. So that's kind of a little bit about that. Now, these lawsuits can take a couple months. They can take over a year. It just depends on your case, what happens with it. Is it settled? Does it actually go to a jury? It's hard for me to set expectations for a client, but if you intend on suing a credit reporting agency, you have to be in it for the long haul, and it has to be something that you're very serious about.
Okay. Now, particularly since we handle so many bankruptcy cases, what kind of issues and problems are more unique for bankruptcy clients?
Well, when someone goes through a bankruptcy, a lot of these creditors have software that isn't set up quite well enough to handle how the bankruptcy process works. So credit reporting agencies are actually required to go through and perform a sweep when the bankruptcy is done that will look at everything on your report and check, okay, is there any way that a reasonable investigation can find that these reports are discharged in a Chapter 13 or you reaffirmed a debt or something like that. And people who've gone through a bankruptcy are uniquely susceptible to these kinds of errors because of the fact that the accounting software may not keep track of this the right way, and the credit reporting agencies may not understand the best way to conduct the sweep. And it does happen that you're going to exit a bankruptcy, you're going to go through it, and you're going to say, oh no, I went through all of this, and now my credit report is still inaccurate. And that's where you may need to dispute some debts, go into it.
So how long after somebody completes their bankruptcy and gets their discharge would you say is a good time to first pull their credit report and take a look at to make sure that things are being reported accurately?
So in terms of length after, that's a matter of opinion. Some attorneys would say 60 to 90 days. Some attorneys would say 6 months. I generally err on the side of 6 months. I want to give the credit reporting agencies plenty of time to conduct that sweep so that when you check your report, 6 months, okay, that's plenty of time. They should have done it by now. And if they they don't have the excuse of 60 days, we were going to do it next week. No, we want to make sure. So they've done it after 6 months. And when you pull that report, the main things to look for are what debts were included in your bankruptcy that should have been discharged. Are they marked as discharged? And aside from that, the debts that you may have kept, like let's say you have a mortgage in a bankruptcy. Is that account still reporting? And if it is reporting, is it reporting as current? Is it reporting accurately? Those kinds of things, because you also want to receive the positive benefits of reporting after bankruptcy, not just avoid the negative consequences. You want to receive those positive benefits so you can really start rebuilding your credit and get your fresh start underway.
That's great. That's really important, I think. But one of the things, I think this is true for everyone, but especially often true for bankrupt debtors, is how do they afford to deal with this? How do they pay an attorney to help them with their credit report? So they say, Jeremy, help me. How much is it, how do they do that?
Right. Well, FCRA actually allows for attorneys to recoup their attorney's fees from the credit reporting agencies and the furnishers who furnish the information to the credit reporting agencies. So it should be at no cost to the actual consumer who walks in the door. For me personally, for the law office of John Orcutt, the consumer can expect to not have to pay us anything. And if we don't win, we don't get paid. So our goal is we're going to go in with the idea that we're doing this work and we want to help folks get their credit reports fixed. The goal number one is getting the credit report fixed. If we don't get any money out of it, we don't get any money out of it. But let's say something has gone wrong and you need to be compensated as a consumer. We're going to take it as far as we can, and as a result of that, we may be able to get compensation for them. But more importantly, you're not going to have to pay an attorney. We're going to recoup our money from the folks who made the mistake, not the innocent consumer.
So if one of our clients has these problems, they should reach out to their paralegal, who will then get in touch with you so that we can start reviewing their case to see what we can do.
Absolutely. I think that would be a great decision for any consumer who's filed bankruptcy with the law office of John Orcutt. I hate to think that somebody could go through a bankruptcy, get done, go through all of that just to not have the true benefit of bankruptcy. So we would love to help people dispute these debts and get things on the right track.
Get their the best fresh start that they can from a bankruptcy.
Absolutely. Get a complete fresh start.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. This was very helpful, and I hope we'll be able to help a lot more of our clients with this problem in the future.
Me too, Ed.